Hey everyone, welcome to the OklaRoots YouTube channel. In today's embroidery tutorial, we're gonna make an item that has just taken over the in the hoop world by storm. Today, we are going to make an in the hoop notebook cover. Now, in this tutorial, we're gonna be making this design, but I wanna show you the other options. This is where I started. These adorable mini notebooks are so cute. So when you're first starting out, if you have a smaller hoop, like a 5x7 hoop, that's a small hoop size we're gonna go today. With a 5x7 hoop, you can make these small little mini notebook covers. You can see we have a band of elastic going over the front. On the back, we have a little tab to hold it in place. If you take it off, open it up, you put your little tiny notebook in there. She tells you exactly what size to use for these. I love these. You know what this is perfect for? What we personally use this for? Grocery lists. This is perfect to stick in your back pocket. My husband and I both can do it. Put our grocery list in there, go to the grocery store, no big deal. So we started with this pattern, which was so much fun. But then Tiffany came out with a bigger pattern. So this is for A6 notebooks. You can see size comparison. It's just a bit bigger. So in this one here, we're actually gonna add a little pen loop, which is an addition to the pattern. It's a tweak that a lot of people have been doing, so I'm gonna show you how to do it if you're interested in that. Again, we have the elastic that goes around. On this design, the elastic holder is on the back. Open it up. And there you go. And depending on what kind of notebook size you have, you can actually double this up. So the pattern calls for an A6 notebook with 80 pages. Now this one here that I found, this has 30 pages, so it's a little bit thin. So what I was actually able to do was grab a second one and keep it in the pocket, and it's perfect for that. I could probably put additional ones in both pockets and then a main one in the center. So if you had like a bunch of these notebooks and you wanted something that would hold multiples, this is perfect. So then Tiffany, being the wonderful digitizer that she is, she knew we were gonna want more options, so this is her latest one. This little trooper here is so cute. It's so much fun. This time, this is the cord keeper. This is the elastic cover here. This is what covers the ends of your elastic and holds it all in place. This time it's on the front. So previously we had on the back, now it's on the front as part of the detail. Open it up, and ba-bam, there we go. Awesome notebook holder. We're gonna again have the little tab on the side. I use a little bit different things than she recommends. She recommends a 1-inch double fold elastic for this. I have 3/8 of an inch velvet elastic, which I love using. So that's what I'll be using today. I'll show you, I made another version of this one. This one here uses cotton lycra, which is like a jersey knit material. And I love the feel of it, and we use cotton lycra a lot in embroidery projects because it's just really easy to work with. However, in this one, because there's so much empty space right here, you can see how it moves around a lot. I'm not worried about it ripping or tearing, but it might stretch out, like if you're shoving it in a book bag or something a lot, this cotton lycra might stretch out over time. So I do suggest that you use cotton woven, which could be quilt cotton, something that has a little bit more beef to it. And honestly, like this one here, this is a lawn material, which means it's very lightweight, very, very drapey, luxurious, lightweight. I interface that with my Pellon Shape Flex first, and then I put it on there. So if you're making the smaller ones, I think cotton lycra will actually be fine. It's just the bigger ones, I did notice that it kind of, scrunches up a lot with my vinyl and cotton lycra combination. That could also be it. My vinyl is just very slippery. So in today's tutorial, I will be using the Bernina 770 QE embroidery module. I've had a few of you reach out and ask for a really good overview of that whole system. So if that's something you're interested in, let me know in the comment section down below. I do understand that the 770 QE is a bit of an investment machine, and a lot of you guys watching, I know, haven't even gotten an embroidery machine yet. You're just like thinking about getting an embroidery machine. You don't want to spend that much when you're not even sure if you're going to use it. So I want you to know I am on the hunt for a more affordable embroidery machine, a more affordable single needle embroidery machine that can be used for multiple projects, which means it's going to have a bigger hoop size. You'll find a lot of great affordable embroidery machines, but the biggest hoop they'll use is a 4-inch by 4-inch hoop, which does limit what projects you can do. For example, this one is going to require a 5-inch by 7-inch hoop, and this one is going to require a 6-inch by 10-inch hoop. So if you want to make all these things, you want the biggest hoop you can get to go with your machine. I am on the hunt for you, don't worry. As soon as I find that, I will be sharing it all over social media with links and advice, and we will get one and we will go over it on the channel, I promise. So thank you as always to Tiffany over at Crashing Waves for allowing me to use your patterns in my tutorials. I absolutely love sharing Crashing Waves tutorials. They are some of the most popular in the hoop patterns out there. You've all seen the hand sanitizer holder. It's amazing. She has so many wonderful ideas. This is such a hit. I am telling you, we need this in so many designs. The end of the school year is coming up. Tons of students. This would be a great teacher gift, of course, but this would also be a really fun student gift. For all your kids' classmates, you can embroider their names on this and then make them a bunch of like personalized designs. I think that would be so much fun. I love it. And then your kids can pick out all the fabric and everything for each student based on what they like. I don't know. I think that would be fun. If you're new to the OklaRoots YouTube channel, please consider clicking subscribe down below. If at any point you like this video, please give it a like. Any questions, anything at all you want to say, leave them down in the comment section. I will have timestamps for every single step of this tutorial. They will be down here at the bottom of the video, as well as in the description of the video. So if you go down over here on the bottom right, there's a little arrow. It'll expand the description. Just go on down there, and the links for all the products, as well as links for the timestamps, will be there. All right, let's get started. Okay, so here's all the stuff I'm going to be using to construct my notebook holder today. First, I have this maxi hoop for my Bernina. Now, every embroidery machine is completely different. This hoop is very large, but it's going to be perfect for this project today. Like I said, you're going to need a 6-inch by 10-inch hoop or larger to make this size notebook holder. I have my 505 spray, which I always use with embroidery. The thread I'll be using today, I have some Madeira thread here, and then I also have some of this fun glow-in-the-dark thread. This is from Wizardry Stitchery. I will be using cutaway material, and only because I need the material to be wide enough to go on my hoop. My tearaway material is too skinny for my hoop, and it won't stay. The pattern does call for tearaway, however. I always have my fabric scissors on hand. My favorite needles for doing in the hoop projects are Schmetz Super Universal 8012s. These have a non-stick coating on them, so the needles don't stick to your sticky vinyl and have any problems with, bunching up or shredding threads. I have my trusty 1-inch by 6-inch ruler. The scissors I always use. I have my thread snips, some tweezers to help with cleaning up the threads, and then my curved embroidery scissors. This is for that applique. I always have Scotch tape on hand. This is going to be to hold down a lot of different things. And then I also have this 3M tape, which is very, very sticky and really good at holding down the little pen holder. So here are all of the pieces for the notebook holder. First, you're going to need a backing. This is just going to be the main front of your notebook holder. Next, you're going to have a piece of fabric that's going to be that design fabric. So like I said, I'm using cotton woven. This cotton woven is a little stiff, so I don't have it interfaced with any sort of woven interfacing. However, if you find that the material you're using is very lightweight, not stretchy, but if it's very, very thin and lightweight, I do suggest adding some woven interfacing to it. You can use cotton lycra, but like I said, if you do, there's a lot of open space on here. It can be very stretchy, so I do prefer the cotton woven. For the backing, I have felt. Now this felt is a little interesting. It's actually like a cardboard kind of paper felt. It has more, it's not very floppy and fabricy, you know what I mean? It has like a crispness to it. So I'll have a link down below, but I really, really like this to keep the structure of the notebook holders. And then you're going to need 2 cuts of your vinyl or your cork for your pockets. And then we're going to have a little background piece here. This can be cork or vinyl. This is going to be for the background of the trooper's head. And then you're going to need the actual trooper helmet, so you can use whatever color you want for that. And then you're going to have 2 pieces of elastic, one piece that's going to hold the notebook holder closed, and then another smaller cut. This is a 2-inch cut, and this is going to be for the pen loop. So the first thing we want to do is hoop our stabilizer. Like I said, I have to use cutaway because it's wide enough for my hoop. The other tearaway I have is just too narrow and it won't fit and stay in my hoop. So just think about that. But if you only have cutaway, this will be fine. Cutaway's fine. I really like this hoop. If you have a Bernina and you want to get a hoop like this, make sure you get it when it goes on sale. They have great sales. It's an investment, but get it on sale. I like it though because you can just plop in your inner hoop like that. And then the little turny tool over here is very easy. See? You just turn it until it stops. And when you're going to release it, you just push down and it releases it. Isn't that great? It's so much easier than twist, 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 twist with our little screws. Okay, and then I always push down my inner hoop just a scotch, just the teeniest, tiniest bit so it comes out a little bit further than the outer hoop. I was advised to do this by the Bernina store near me to prevent that outer hoop from scratching the little rainbow design I have on my bed. Okay, so as you can see, I have my design all loaded on my hoop. If you need to, rotate this so it fits in your hoop. So I know the other one that doesn't have the little face design here, it kind of goes landscape. I have to rotate it so that it will fit in my hoop, but just rotate it so it gets the way you want it. So I'm just gonna load in my hoop now, and make sure you load your thread color that's going to be for the outline of your notebook holder. So this will be, for me, that satin stitch that goes around the entire notebook holder. You can see in this one, it's going to be this thread right here that goes around the entire notebook holder. We'll change threads later for this part of the project, but for now, just load your thread that's gonna go around. You might also have the zigzag file, so you can have this as a satin stitch or a zigzag stitch. So this first step is just going to trace the outline for the full notebook holder. So I'm gonna remove the hoop to show you the next step, but you could also do this at the sewing machine. You don't have to remove the hoop for this part. So here we have our stitch out. Now remember, the design is gonna go right here, and this is going to be the front of your notebook. I like to attach my little pen loop on the back panel of my notebook, which will be right here, centered. Now, you can attach this now or you can attach this later. If you attach your pen loop now, it will get satin stitching over it. So depending on your machine, that might be a little too tough for it. If we attach this later, we'll attach it on the back after it's already done with the satin stitch. I'm going to show you how to do it this way, attaching it before we do satin stitching. However, if you wanted to attach it later, I will let you know at what step you would do that. So I just took my 2-inch piece of elastic and folded it in half. And then I have a small piece of that 3M tape because it is very, very sticky. And then I'm just going to have this overhang that line halfway. So if you were going to measure this, this would be 1/2 inch right here overhanging the line and 1/2 inch coming in towards the center. I add my tape so that my tape does not go past that line, so that way I don't have to worry about cutting it or anything later. And now I'm just going to leave it alone. Now we're going to take our exterior vinyl piece, this is for that front cover, and we're just going to lay it so that it completely covers that stitch out. It should be good. And we're going to take this back to the sewing machine, and we're going to trace out the inner rectangle for our fabric design. Okay, just make sure this covers it completely. If it's easier for you, grab some of your Scotch tape and tape this down. Otherwise, let the machine run the next step, which is going to trace out that inner rectangle for your fabric. So once you have that stitch traced out, grab your fabric and lay it over that rectangle. Now remember, this right here on the right, this is going to be the top and this is going to be the bottom, at least on my machine. Just make sure you pay attention to your design and you line up your fabric if it's directional so that it is going the right way. Now I am going to use tape this time to hold this in place. As you can see, I switched over to a white masking tape because the masking tape I was using had measurements on it and I don't want to give away the measurements of the rectangles. Okay, so now we're just going to let the machine run and it's going to tack down this piece of fabric. Okay, now let's take this out of the machine and cut down this fabric. So the first thing we want to do is take the tape off. This is where those little tweezers come in really handy. Sometimes the tape gets stuck in those stitches and it can be kind of a pain to try to get it out with your nails. So just grab some tweezers and pull the tape out of the stitches. If you're using masking tape, this shouldn't be that difficult. And I'll tell you from my experience, the longer you let tape sit in stitches, the harder it's going to be to get it out. We make a lot of notebook holders for our shop. And sometimes when we use tape, it gets in the stitches. And if I don't take it out that same day and it sits overnight, it can become very, very difficult to get the tape out of those stitches. Okay, once you have the tape out, now you're going to take your angled scissors and you're going to cut around the edges as close as you can get to those stitches. I mean it, as close as you can get to those stitches. Because we're going to have a satin stitch or a zigzag stitch, whichever one you chose. And it's going to go around the entire edge, and if you don't clip really close to the stitches, your raw edges of fabric are going to peek through. Okay, I always go back and I always have a couple areas where I didn't get as close as I wanted, so I just go clean those up real quick. Sometimes that means I'm just cutting it from the other direction. That helps a lot. Okay, now let's take this back to the embroidery machine. Okay, now depending if you chose a satin stitch or zigzag stitch, it's going to do that around your fabric choice. Okay, this next stitch is going to provide placement for your elastic. Okay, so first it's going to stitch down the top elastic and then the bottom. And I realize I used really bad thread colors here. But this is like a little Z shape. And when I take my elastic, there's like a straight line here on the top. And then there's a diagonal line that connects it to the straight line below. I take my elastic and I center it on that straight line since my elastic is thinner than, 1 inch. And I have it overhang to the center of that diagonal line. And then we're going to stitch down this piece of elastic. Okay, so now this piece here is stitched down. So keep your elastic straight while you pull it around so that we can then stitch the bottom side. So the bottom side is going to go up and you can just have it meet the other end of that elastic and then stitch it down. Okay, so this next step is going to stitch out the placement for our trooper's head. Now, this is the one step you really want to be careful with your elastic because it's very easy for it to get all bunched up. It's going to stitch outside of the lines we just stitched down. So I will hold it on the top on one side as it stitches up here, and then I'll kind of hold it back as it stitches the side, and then I'll pull this straight as it stitches the bottom. Because if you don't kind of hold on to this elastic, it's going to just, it's going to be a mess. Okay, once you have that done, you can just kind of move this out of the way. You can tape it out of the way if you'd like. If you're using velvet elastic, I will tell you if you tape this, it will kind of rip off some of the velvet. So I just move it out of the way. I don't have that much of a problem with it. So now you're going to grab the trooper's background fabric. So this is not the fabric I'm using for the helmet. This is the background of the helmet. That's a mistake I made on my first one. There's 2 pieces of fabric here. So just make sure it covers that trace. And if it extends onto the, velvet elastic or anything like that, don't worry about it. It's only going to stitch where it already stitched for the trace. So you don't have to worry so much about your elastic anymore, as long as it just stays out of the way. Okay, let's take this out and trim it down. Okay, so now we're going to trim around our stitching. Now here's the thing. There's no satin stitch that's going to cover up these raw edges. So you don't want to trim too close to your stitches and end up, cutting your stitches or getting it so that it kind of pops out. So trim about 1/8 of an inch around the outline of your stitching. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's okay if it's rough. It's going to look great. When you're doing this, make sure you don't accidentally cut your elastic. All right, there we go. So you can see my stitching isn't perfect. It doesn't have to be. It's an effect. It doesn't have, the perfection is not key here. It's an effect that's going to be cool with the next step. So let's go take this back to the machine. So this next step is going to stitch out placement for the helmet. I am going to switch over to my white thread now, which is what I'll be using for the helmet stitch down. Okay, so now let's stitch out the helmet placement. Always make sure you're checking on your elastic and keeping it out of the way. Now I'm going to grab my helmet fabric and just lay it over that stitch out. And now we're going to tack that down. Okay, now let's remove this and go quickly trim down this white vinyl. So this white vinyl is going to have a zigzag stitch around it to hide it. So your trimming doesn't have to be perfect, but it will still need to be as close as you can get it to the stitches. All right, once you have that trimmed down, just put this back in your machine. And now the next step is going to provide a little zigzag stitch that's going to go around the raw edges of your white vinyl. Okay, now we're moving on to the detailing on the face, so I'm going to switch out to my black thread. So this step and the next step are going to be all the face detailing. I'll be using black thread for both of those steps. Because I have so much thickness here, I have 3 layers of vinyl, a layer of cotton, and then I've got the elastic underneath here. I up the tension just a little bit to make it a little bit easier for my machine and to avoid thread breaks. Okay, before you move on to the next step, this is a good time to just kind of trim some of those little threads. All right, the next step is just going to continue with the face. Okay, once you have the face all done, now we need to attach the backing. So I have my felt. I'm going to be using this spray glue to attach it. You could also use tape if you're more comfortable doing that. I just shake it up really well. And then I spray the back of my felt. There we go. And then I will just stick that glue side down, covering the back of my notebook holder. Just press it lightly from the back and flip it over, and you can press it firmer from the front. Okay, now let's take this to the machine and stitch down the next step, which is going to stitch down this backing here. For the remaining steps, I'll be switching back to the original thread color to match the satin stitch. Alright, now that you have the felt attached to the back, now we can attach the pockets. And remember I mentioned this little pen holder over here. You could have attached that before the felt. So before you stitch down the felt, you would just add the little pen attachment right here with some tape and then stitch the felt down. You could also attach it now if you'd want, so you'd have to just kind of go back and forth and figure out which side you want it on. I like it on the back flap. And then you could tape it down right now before we attach the pockets. That would also secure it in place. So however you want to do it, you can see because we did it here, there is a little bit of like a bump here over the satin stitching. Totally personal preference. There's 3 different opportunities here to attach that pen holder. So now we're just going to measure 1 inch away from the left line here, and we're going to line up the straightest edge of one of our vinyls for the pocket. And then I'm once again going to use tape to hold this in place. This is the one time my machine did have a little bit of trouble because these pockets got folded out of the way while it was stitching and it stitched it down all bunched up, which was so sad. So use as much tape as you can and just keep an eye on it while it stitches these pockets down. All right, once I have one pocket taped down, I'm going to tape down the other pocket in the same way, 1 inch away from the right side. And I like to add one final tape going down the middle of the pockets just to hold it out of the way. There we go. Now let's take this back to the sewing machine and run the final stitch. Alright, we did it. And the pockets didn't move, so that's great. This tape was trying to move, but the pockets look good. So we can just remove some of the tape. We're going to cut off most of the tape, so don't worry about removing all of it. Let's just pop this out of the hoop. I love that. So easy. Alrighty, and now I'm just going to trim down just outside of that stitching, outside of the satin stitching. So we have that nice little beaded stitch over here, and I'm just cutting it about 1/8 of an inch away. It's always best to cut farther away than you think you need to first, because you can go back down and trim it later if you need to. But you don't want to accidentally cut those stitches and then ruin your whole project. Alrighty, so let's remove the tape for the elastic. You guys, I cut off the pen holder! Oh no, I totally forgot to tell you guys not to cut off the pen holder. I can't believe I did that. Oh my goodness. Let me get an old one and I'll try to show you what to do. Okay, I went ahead and made another one to try to show you how to cut around that pen tab the right way. So on this one, my pen tab, instead of being underneath the top layer of vinyl, it's actually down here below the felt. So I added it on after I got done satin stitching this. So let's just start with that part. So what you're gonna do is cut close to your stitches, just like I was showing you before. And then once you start getting towards the midpoint here, we're just gonna cut off straight away, just like that. And you can leave a generous amount. You don't want to get close to that because you don't want to accidentally cut that elastic. So you can see I'm just leaving a nice big nub there, and I'll come back and clean that up in just a moment. And now I'll just continue cutting around my notebook holder. Okay, now that we have all of it cut except for where our pen holder is, what we're going to do is we're going to fold down the felt and that pocket vinyl, just like that. And I'm also going to fold down my little velvet pen holder. And now I'm going to cut along this edge, and I'm only cutting through my top vinyl and my cutaway stabilizer, trying to get it as straight as possible. So you see now when I fold this up, I have my pen holder here, and then I have the backing and the felt. So now all I have to do is pull the pen holder down towards the front, and then cut the pocket and the felt right along that same line. See? And then if you have to clean it up a little bit, you can clean it up. All right, there you go. And now you have the little pen holder all ready to go, and it's all cut and it's not cut off. And so for this one, the front of this one doesn't have a design, so the pen holder is on the back with the little rectangle for our elastic holder. And there you go. This should be nice and easy. It should be a nice tight fit for your pen. You don't want to make this too loose or else your pen's just going to slide off. But it's a very easy addition to the notebook holder. You know, it's so funny. I've made these notebook holders many times with that pen loop, and never once did I trim it off except for when I'm filming this tutorial. So, like I said, I'm going to try to make another one, and I'll have that clip inserted, so you should have already seen it, where I showed you how to actually trim around the pen holder. I still can't believe I did that. But even if you don't include the pen holder on purpose, it's an adorable notebook holder. It's just perfect. It's nice and wide right here, too, so it is meant for a thicker A6 notebook. I have thinner ones, so I'll show you what I can do. Here are my adorable little pockets. I can take one, insert it into the pocket, just completely, the whole thing, just like that. You know what, I'm gonna try inserting one on both sides. It might be a little too much, but we'll see. Okay, so you can see I have two of my notebooks. These are like 30-page A6 notebooks inserted in both pockets. And now I'm gonna take a third one and insert that so that the flaps are in the pockets, and this would be the one you use. All right, there we go. That's perfect. Look how cute that is. It's nice and fat. But look, you have 3 of these A6 notebooks in there, no problem whatsoever. This would be great for college students. This would be great for kiddos, high school students, to keep all their little notes in. This is awesome. This is so cute. Tiffany, I love these so much. I can't wait to see a bunch of other designs. I'm assuming you're gonna make some more designs. I'm requesting some more designs. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope that you love making these as much as I do. I honestly could take a little vacation over the next month or so and just bust out as many of these as possible. We are considering making some of these and adding them to our OklaRoots shop, so I will have the link to my shop down below. And if you follow me on social media, you will hear first if we decide to do that. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you have a fantastic rest of the week. Get out there and make something. Bye, guys. Can't believe I did that. Oh my gosh. Well, now I gotta make another one. Yay!